Today on People with Passion for Pets, we talk to Carrie Seay, an animal behavior consultant. Carrie is also a certified pet first aid and CPR instructor, and she's the owner of Phoenix Animal Behavior Center. Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, Carrie. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to talk to you guys.
Yeah, so are we. Carrie, so you are an animal behaviorist and dog trainer, and you have a center. It's called the Phoenix Animal Behavior Center, and you're in North Phoenix on Cave Creek Road.
Yep.
And you offer all kinds of great classes. So I'm excited to talk to you. So tell us a little bit about your dog training center.
Yeah, so it's not just dogs. I do cats too.
Oh,
Very cool.
now that is something we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Very
cool.
interesting.
I work with both dogs and cats. We do everything from puppy group classes. I work with behavioral issues, private and home. And then, kind of some fun events. Sometimes I'll do nose work, box games classes. And then I also teach CPR at the center too. So that's also nice having that nice space where I can work with all my students and clients and bring them all together.
Yes, and animal CPR, that is really one of the reasons why I found you, is because with our, focus on traveling with pets, I really feel knowing animal CPR and first aid is such a big deal. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. So maybe that's what we'll start, is just tell us a little bit about those classes.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a class I wish more people would sign up for. A lot of the students that I get have already had a bad experience. They've already had that situation where, their dog fell in the pool, or their dog's head got stuck in a bag and they had to rush to the vet or something like that. And, I wish these incidences could be prevented, where they could have, in that moment at home, help their dog, not having to wait, that, because the vet's never right around the corner, right? Especially because emergencies always happen evenings and weekends without a fail. So what do? You go to the emergency vet that's hopefully less than 30 minutes away, but especially when you're traveling and maybe you're in an RV or you're camping, and what are you going to do? Get on that dirt road and, keep your fingers crossed?
Yes, exactly. And I'm an avid hiker. I hike all by myself with our dogs a lot, because Jim likes to sleep in. But that is just one of those things where it's like, if you're out there on the trail, something happens, you want to be able to at least administer first aid, and then be able to quickly get the animal to a hospital or a veterinarian.
Definitely. Yeah. And a lot of times we don't even think, as in Arizona, I feel like we never even have enough supplies for ourselves. So, remembering to bring those supplies for our dogs, even if it is just a water bowl and water and enough supplies for both of us. But then also, having a little bit of a first aid kit, because they might get bit by something, whether it's a bug, or, a little cholla cactus rolls into them, and do you have your tweezers on you, and things like that are so tiny and simple that a lot of people don't even think about having just in their hiking pack with them.
Perfect. And so that's something that you would recommend, is that you have like a little pack of supplies that you would have with you at all times. And you could even have your dog carry it, right?
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And, and it doesn't have to be a lot of supplies, right? Benadryl is one of the most useful things out there, especially those little liquid gel caps of the Benadryl. Bring a little safety pin so you can kind of poke the end of it to squeeze right into your dog's mouth, just in case they do get bit by that bug or that spider or that scorpion or that bee or whatever other creepy crawly things are existing out there these days. So that's probably one of the most useful things to have. But just having a little tiny pair of pliers or tweezers to get those cholla cactus out, because I swear those things are alive. I know that they aren't. But
That's what I
it's
call
little-
jumping choyas,
That's
right?
I saw you move. I saw you jump.
Exactly. They totally have a mind of their own.
Yep.
And sometimes they're just there, and dogs don't, they're sniffing and searching and
Yep.
getting into all those interesting things of the desert that we don't notice them half the time. How do we expect our dog, who has 2 extra limbs to watch out for, to pay attention to that sort of stuff? So,
yeah, and we did a little video on what we carry, and one of the things that we learned when we had horses is to bring a comb, because a comb is even easier to get these choyas away from everybody. And
Scoop
then
it and flick it.
I've
Hopefully not on the person.
I've done that though, and I flicked it on the gym, like where they were
She
on the
flicked it
dog
off
and
the horse and it landed right on me.
Nice.
Hey, I thought
how
you loved me.
how many times have you been like pulling something out of your dog's fur and then you're like,
They just-
wait,
yeah, that
now,
was me.
okay, then I'll put in my other, wait, now,
Yep, yep.
like, where is it gonna go?
Or you're just barely grabbing it and they jerk and then it embeds it into your hands. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I even recommend, and I don't know how you feel about this, but to make a little muzzle or have a little soft muzzle, or I usually use some vet wrap, because when they're full of choyas, they will bite at the choyas,
That's
right?
all they
and
know,
then
yeah.
they'll have it all over in their mouth and things like that.
Yeah, one of the things that is actually taught in the pet first aid and CPR class is how to make a muzzle. So we just kind of use these long, thin pieces of fabric. You can use a leash, you can use, whatever, maybe a jacket or a string, really. And we teach you how to make a muzzle, because we always say when an animal is in pain, they might bite.
Absolutely.
You want to protect them, you want to protect yourself. So that is one kind of precautionary thing that we do teach, so that if there is an injury that you're trying to take care of, they don't accidentally turn and snap or injure themselves further by gnawing on that choya or whatever it might be.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what are some of the other skills that are taught in pet CPR and first aid?
Yeah, so obviously the biggest one is CPR.
Mm.
Right in the name, right? So, and CPR, it's something that's really simple. It's very similar to human CPR, but it's just a little bit different because obviously dogs aren't shaped the same way as us, right? So their organs are pretty much in the same place, but just kind of knowing how to put those hands on their body so that we can give that appropriate CPR to them. We also teach the Heimlich, essentially, for if a dog is choking on something. What do you do if a dog is choking? We talk about first aid in terms of injuries, if they have a cut, if they have a scratch, using vet wrap and gauze and things like that on those injuries. And we also talk about what things need to be rushed to that animal hospital. If your dog is impaled with something, don't pull that stick or barbed wire or whatever it is out, because you're going to make it worse, and just rush them to the vet. We kind of talk about those situations of what can you kind of triage out in the field versus what do you just kind of, okay, let's go, let's jump in the car as fast as we can and get to that help quickly.
That's awesome. And that would, be such a peace of mind for any pet owner that, is out and about, or even at home. Like you were talking about choking. I mean, how many times have you had a dog that eats something and then they're like,
They're right.
and you wish you knew exactly what to do, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the interesting thing about choking too is, as humans, I feel like we are so quick to like jump on our dogs when they're kind of on something. And, we talk about in class, like if they are still working it out themselves, let them work it out, because oftentimes when we interfere, we can make it harder for them and we can actually get in the way, because we come near them, they might be startled by us. They might kind of swallow whatever it is a little more deeply, causing it to not come out or go, kind of the wrong way, essentially. So we talk about what are those situations where your dog can kind of deal with things. I don't know if you've ever been coughing and choking and somebody like smacks you on the back and it just kind of makes it worse. And you're like, what did you do that for? I was out.
But Carrie, that is such an important point, and I had never really thought about that before. But you know, when you're saying if sometimes when you don't let them work it out, because sometimes the dog thinks you're going to take it away from them, right? Especially if you're a dog that is very protective of their food, and they're kind of hacking a little bit, and you try to go in there, and they're like, "Oh, she's going to take it," and then they are going to swallow it rather than try to get it out, right?
They don't perceive a problem until you come up to them, and then they say, "Okay, you're going to take it from me, so now I have to get it in faster." And until they perceive a problem, there's not a problem.
That is so important. I had never really thought about that.
They are living beings too. There are certain things that just naturally happen, and they can work through those moments themselves.
And I guess that's just the number one thing I think for anybody out there, for our viewers, to realize if you go out and you take a class like a pet CPR or pet first aid, you're really enriching yourself with information. And so now you can be more comfortable, but also you probably are going to learn so many things that you never really knew before. And you're going to be such a better pet owner in all respect.
So
yeah.
And a lot of times people with good intentions, you see this on YouTube, with good intentions, they want to help an animal and then end up doing more harm just because they don't realize that, first of all, even though they're domesticated, they still have that inherent ability to take care of themselves and that survival instinct. And if you leave them alone and let them figure it out, I mean, we had a dog that was riding with us with our horses, and he was overheating. And so instead of us jumping off and doing something, we just stopped. And he went into the creek and he cooled off and he drank and he relaxed a little bit. We didn't have to scare him, but wrap blankets, stuff like. He just needed to stop for a second, cool off.
Yeah. And
and heat exhaustion is a big deal here in Arizona, right?
Yeah, and something that's super important with that is, as humans, again, we think my dog is overheating. I need to throw ice on them. I need to get cool as quickly as possible. And you could be doing a lot more damage by, abruptly cooling their system as opposed to letting it just kind of gradually cool back down.
And that's what your classes are such a good idea, because you should have an idea of what could happen, because you don't go around thinking, well, I could get in a car wreck, but you still put on a safety belt. So when we go out in the desert, we know that he could get, hit by a snake or something, but okay, so we have tools and the knowledge to deal with it if and when it ever happens, but we don't not go hiking because we're afraid, what if?
Absolutely. Yeah. Being prepared and having that knowledge of, especially, people that do travel to different parts of the country, different climates, things like that. We talk about, heat exhaustion, but we also talk about hypothermia in class. And we don't want, let's say you take your dogs up to the snow during the winter and they get frostbite. I don't want you throwing a heating pad on them.
Right.
It's really cool. So where can people find you, and how often do you have these classes?
So I try to have them about every 6 to 8 weeks, keep them regular enough and get a good enough audience. But they can find information either on social media at PHX Animal Behavior, or my website is phxanimalbehavior.com. And that always has the most up-to-date information on class offerings and, more information about me and what the classes are and everything like that too.
Perfect. Do you have seminars in other areas, or can, like, if there's a place that maybe wanted to do a seminar, would you be available to hold those?
Yeah. Absolutely. I do, I'll do private classes for, there was actually a retirement community that just reached out to me a couple of weeks ago and was like, hey, we want you to come in and talk to our residents and talk about, do a CPR class. So, communities like that, sometimes grooming salons or doggy daycares are really great places if they want to get their employees all certified in CPR. or even if they just want to host an event for their clients.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about some of the other classes, the other type of classes that you have. So you specialize in behavior, and like you mentioned in the beginning, not just for dogs, but also for cats, which is interesting because cats are usually thought as less trainable than dogs, right?
Unfortunately, they are. They aren't, just like I always just say, it's an animal. Everything is trainable. So, in my classes, I start with, again, I'm fortunate enough to have an indoor facility, so I can have really young puppies. So I actually have classes as young as 8-week-old puppies, because I'm able to clean and sanitize that space and not just have a random park where, we worry about parvo and all that scary stuff out there. But we start with those puppies.
And you probably find out in the training that it's kind of funny, but behaviors, most of the opportunities that people have with their dogs is they think I might want to go through obedience. I want to make the dog sit and stay. However, he eats my furniture, or he goes to the bathroom in the house, or he pulls on the leash. And doing the behavior will fix a lot of those opportunities that people think that they have. If the dog hangs out with you, enjoys hanging out with you, the sit stay doesn't mean as much because the dog's already with you. So, there's not a whole lot going on.
I don't start with sit and stay and down and all that stuff. I start with, let's go through this tunnel. Let's play some storm noises. Let's move the mop bucket. Let's do vacuum cleaner. Let's talk about grooming and handling and all that stuff, because I can teach any dog to sit, right? Whether it's 2 months old or 15 years old. But once they have those experiences in life with the vacuum cleaner or, that skateboard or whatever it might be, those things can just remain scary. And so having those really good experiences up front help them to just be more successful in real life. So yeah, we start, with all of those socialization aspects and handling, and just kind of build up from there. We obviously do a lot of the basic obedience because that's what everybody thinks they need. They want to have all of those basic cues under their belt, which are helpful. Then I also do work with privately clients I have some fear aggressive clients right now. I have a couple of cat households where the cats aren't getting along. I have a household right now where it's the cat and the dog that we're introducing to each other. So it's nice that I do work with both of those species because I can work with those households.
Can I ask you the differences? What are some of the major differences between training a cat and training a dog?
I would say the major differences are cats, their reinforcement is typically a little bit harder to figure out right away. Most dogs will, they enjoy chicken liver and beef liver and hot dogs and cheese and milk bones and, you name it. They're like, yes, please. Whereas cats, they can just be a little bit more finicky when it comes to those reinforcers. But the biggest problem I see with the difference between cats and dogs is we don't treat our cats like dogs.
That's right.
So we don't socialize our cats ever, right? You get a kitten, you throw it in the house. Cool. Maybe somebody comes over in a couple months. And so they don't even have those opportunities to start learning at that young age. Whereas you get that puppy, you're calling all your friends, you're going to happy hour, you're taking them everywhere, you're doing stuff. And the cats just kind of exist, so I feel like they kind of get that short end of the stick because they don't even get the opportunities to start learning. And, because kittens can be so fun to train because they're curious about everything. They want to try all those treats. Whereas the cats, when I finally get my hands on them, they're 4, 5, 6, 10 years old, and they aren't as curious about things anymore because they're like, well, I just live in this room or this house.
This is what I do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But, I think that's exactly, that just kind of clicked for me, because the people that I know that have these outgoing cats that go walk with them on a leash and stuff, they're the ones that the owner basically did what most people would do with a puppy, is take it everywhere,
Right.
and drag it around, put it in the bag, bring it to
And-
work and stuff.
And everybody thinks like, oh, that's just the cat. I have a lot of people that, I have a Cornish Rex who does have a they're bred to have that outgoing personality, but she is just extra personable. She goes on, kind of walks. We really just hang out in the front yard. But, she does things and everybody jokes and calls her cat dog because, oh, she's so much like a dog. And I'm like, but your cat can be like this too. Like,
Yeah, that's a very good point.
It's awesome. And so in that perspective, you are very, very unique in what you offer. And then, so those type of situations, do you go into the client's home and work with them there, or do they come to your facility?
Typically in those situations, I do go to the client's home because a lot of times people don't realize, especially with cats, who aren't leaving the house really ever, environment makes a huge difference in behavior. So if you don't have those appropriate vertical spaces and hidey holes and, things like that for your cat, you're kind of setting them up for failure, bringing that new puppy in. But I do, I will work with puppies with the training at the training center, and then they take a lot of those skills home to work with the cats, working on, the leave it and look at that and all of those different kind of basic skills. But definitely environment can play a huge role in a lot of these behaviors that we see.
And it kind of sounds like a lot like our clients, because, even though our dog trainer behavior is primarily the customers that call us are people that have behavior issues. And, those for us are the most important to work with, because that quickly turns into, I can't have this animal anymore, or, it's not working with my children, or it's not working with the other pets in the home. So I just think the animal behavior, and that's what Jim was alluding to, that's just the number one thing we have to address, right? I mean, it's great to have a puppy or a dog that will sit, but it's more important that the dog doesn't rush out an open door, or doesn't bite, or doesn't, chase the cat. So that's
Right.
really neat.
It's really cool because we just did one a few days ago to introduce a dog to chickens and goats and stuff like that. And it was so important, that people understood that the first impressions. So when the dog gets there, it's family. The goose that came up to attack the dog, it's still family. You can't eat the goose, you have to pick escape, so
Kind of feisty.
it's really a good thing. Behavior is really important, and it solves a lot of issues, because I come from the background of humane societies and dog pounds, and you see some wonderful dogs in there that their biggest crime was that they jump on a table or they eat something off the counter, and it kills you. It just kills you. And when they come in, you tell them, you can fix this. We can fix this, So behavior is a good thing to work on. It's great that you do that.
And I think you have some background too in rescue, right?
I do. I actually co-own La Guitarra Cat Cafe. So we have a rescue now. So we do cat, and I've always fostered cats and kittens. And last year I had like 20 some odd kittens because kitten season running around all the upstairs of the house. So and I've also worked with a couple of dog rescues, and I do get a lot of clients that have rescue pets that they don't know the background. And, I often tell them like, yeah, that sucks that we don't know what this dog went through, but let's not assume worst case scenario. Let's not get caught up on, oh my gosh, what happened? What's going on? Were they hit? Were they abused? I don't know. And I don't care, to be
Exactly.
I just want to work forward. How can I change their relationship with, a person or another dog or the cat or the goat or, whatever it is, from here forward, because, they aren't like people. I can't throw them in therapy and say, talk about your issues.
Exactly.
Mhm. But the beautiful thing is that pets or animals live in the now, right? I mean, they may have imprint memories or associations with something negative in their past, but they're not dwelling on the past like
Exactly.
humans do. They're always in the now.
Yeah. And so all we can do is just move forward. And that's great information. I always tell my clients it's great information to have, but let's move forward. What do you
Exactly.
want your future to look like? Not what did the past look like?
Because your dog has already done that. The dog's already moved forward. You replace the hand that's going to smack them with the cookie hand. So every time they see the hand coming towards them, instead of doing this, they go, hey, cookie. And
Yeah.
then it replaces the behavior. Yeah. Very cool.
It's definitely a fun field to be in. It's, constantly getting different challenges with different breeds of dogs that I'm working with and cats. And, there's always those ones that you're like, hey, I'm going to need to take a second and absorb this information and figure out a plan to go forward. But, a lot of it really is doing the same things and just educating those pet parents on why behavior happens and how behavior happens and what reinforcement is and all of that stuff for them to understand your dog's not a bad dog, I promise.
And it is really cool, though. I know you've seen that too. When we go out there, it's like, okay, we can train the dog. That's not the issue. It's training the person to understand why they do that, because that's what behavior is why is the dog doing what it's doing? It's not like Wifey says, it's not a good behavior, it's a bad behavior, it's either a wanted or not wanted behavior. I don't care if the dog jumps on the couch, unless you don't want him to jump on the couch,
Right.
It's okay. So
It's amazing how quickly the animals understand, right? And that's why, but one of the things that I like to tell people is, attention is the most valuable currency in the world, right? And with animals, they do things because they get attention or they want attention. So if you're paying them for jumping at you with your attention, then they'll jump because it works.
I get
right?
paid, I'm going to jump some more.
So we're really excited that you are offering those services in North Phoenix, and hopefully a lot of our viewers that are in that area will be able to take advantage. I love that you're starting puppies at such an early age and that you work with cats. What an amazing resource you are for us.
Yeah, I try to be well-rounded.
Yeah, what do you talk about your pets? What do you have?
So I have a zoo of dogs. I have my golden retriever puppy who is about 5 months old, who has some ants in her pants right now and is kind of running around the room like a crazy girl. And then we have a 5-year-old blue heeler who, oh man, he keeps me on my toes all the time. And I have 4 cats. So I have a 15-year-old long hair calico, a 5-year-old Cornish Rex, and then 2 1-year-old kittens. One's a tuxedo and one is a brown tabby. They're actually feral kittens that I was fostering last year, and kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm never going to find a more perfect home for you, so you can just stay.
Good for you. Wow.
So
That's awesome.
That's the household that I deal with.
You take them to work with you? You able to take them to work?
So I take the puppy to work with me a lot. She is now 45 pounds, so it's a little bit harder to take her places than it was when she was this little, munchkin. But I do take her with me as often as I can. So it's fun to introduce her and socialize her to different dogs and cats. And she's met dogs, cats, chickens, peacocks, roosters, bunnies, all sorts of things.
That's cute.
Yeah. So she a lot of socialization in her life.
That's fun.
Well, wonderful. Well, this has been a real pleasure to talk to you, Carrie. And we certainly will make sure that we share all of your links in the description below the video so that when people are looking for your classes and your training center, they can find you.
Yeah, no, this was great. I really appreciate you guys, and look forward to watching what else you guys are learning about and keeping up with your journey too.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you have to stay here in the summertime. We're leaving. Sorry.
Say goodbye. We'll see you later.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed the information. And until next time, keep your paws on the road.